good morning, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining the Texas Veterans Commission Women Veterans Program for today's webinar that features a panel of esteemed women veteran authors who are sharing some of their wisdom, insight, and lessons learned regarding their journey to becoming an author. My name is Sharon Stewart, and I will be facilitating today's event. I'm asking as a courtesy that you all please keep your mics muted until the question and answer portion of today's event. We also invite you to please post some of your comments, and or questions in the chat. At the conclusion of today's webinar, I will send out the links and items that have been placed in the chat in a follow-up email. Now, while we're waiting for our fellow attendees to continue logging on, I would like to wish you all a happy National Let's Laugh Day, happy National Chocolate Caramel Day, and the International Read to Me Day, which is a very fitting theme for today's webinar. Again, good morning. My name is Sharon Stewart, and I'm the South Texas Women Veterans Coordinator, Women Veterans Program, Texas Veterans Commission. I'm a very proud Army vet. I'm not sure if you can tell. I was enlisted for 11 years. I spent the last 10 years of my career as a commissioned officer. And for those of you who are not aware, please note that the Texas Veterans Commission is a state-level agency that is broken down to 8 different programs and or departments to include claims, education, employment, grants, mental health, healthcare advocacy, entrepreneurship, and of course, the Women Veterans Program. Our Women Veterans Program consists of Program Director, Dr. Krista Matthews, Ms. Catherine Smith, who covers North Texas, Ms. Melissa Harcrow, who covers West Texas, and yes, all 3 of us are Army veterans. The newest member of our team is Ms. Dolores Mendiola, a Marine Corps veteran who provides assistance to those in the East Texas area. And also, please note that here at the Texas Veterans Commission, we don't turn anyone away. Approximately 30 to 40% of the clientele that we assist are in fact male. Now I'm going to introduce you to today's panelists in alphabetical order. I have with you Ms. Lisa Carrington, Ms. Donna Hoffmeyer, Ms. Lila Holly, Dr. Luisa Caprano, who after this, I'm going to be calling her Dr. K, and Ms. Janae Sergio. Now, also, Dr. K has a raffle prize in the form of a code for a free audiobook, and we will get to that later. We're going to be asking a question. Whoever posts the right answer first will be the winner of the raffle prize. And after we go through our questions, we're going to have a question and answer session. So please feel free to post your questions in the chat. Now, we're going to get started with some of the questions that I actually had. And then we're going to get to the questions of the audience. And ladies, I ask that you try to limit your responses to no more than 90 seconds, if at all possible. Now, last week, we discussed the whys of writing a book. And this week, we're going to get into just the tip of the iceberg of discussing the hows. And team, like I mentioned last week, I could probably talk to each of these phenomenal ladies for at least an hour. But I'm grateful that they're sharing just a little bit of the knowledge they've gained with us today. Now we have several questions here, and I'm going to start off with these, and the ones that the panelists expressed an interest in answering. Now I'm going to start off with my first question, and I believe Lisa, you had some insight on the first question. Now, ma'am, can you describe what your writing process was like?
Sure, be happy to. I've published 2 books, and they're quite different from each other. The first book contained 14 stories of military sexual trauma and a chapter on treatment, a chapter on advocacy and resources. So for writers, there's typically 2 types of writers. We call them plotters or pantsers. Plotters are very methodical in their planning. They have overviews, they have outlines. Pantsers fly by the seat of their pants. And you'll find a lot of fiction writers do the pantser stuff, and some are outstanding. So whatever applies to you, that's the way you need to write. You shouldn't adapt to somebody else's style. So my style, I look at writing like project management. The book is my project, and I have all the phases of project management from the initiation to monitoring to the planning. And I can tell you that writing that first book, Stories from the Front, I had 16, by the time I finished, I had 16 different outlines. I kept updating it as I thought differently, but I planned it, the initiation phase. I envisioned my entire book from cover to cover. I designed both the front cover and the back cover and had a cover designer bring my vision to life. So that was really cool. And I think I'm almost done with time. Is that about right?
Yeah, but that was an excellent answer. And I have a background in project management, so flying by the seats of your pants, you're making my eyebrows go up. But like you said, I can understand somebody, a fiction writer, doing that. Now, my next question that I had, um, once you decided to write a book, how long did it take for you to write? And I believe Donna and Lisa, you had some insight on that question.
I wrote my first book after Vanessa Guillen was murdered, and I was so motivated to write that book that I published it and wrote it, interviewed 17 people, I think, and put it out in 10 and a half months. And that is unheard of, to have an editor and publisher to work with you on that pace. But I was so determined to get this book out when I did, because I thought it was important for this book to meet the world and let people know what MST really was, and put a face to MST, right? So so that's unusual. My second book took a year, which is still kind of unusual. Most books take 2, 3, sometimes 5, 6 years to write. So whatever works for you, and I think that's my message to most of the aspiring writers out there. You have to find your style, your planning method, your timelines. It has to work for you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Donna.
With Lisa that those are definitely very fast timelines. And we were saying writing, there's two different parts of it. So writing, for me, the writing process took a year, and then it took another year to get through the editing and publishing and all that. And I was co-authoring, and that was a whole other ballgame. But you can, like Lisa said, do not put yourself under that pressure if it's too much for you. You pace yourself at it. So on average, they usually say that it's about 18 months to 2 years to get a book from editing to out. The writing process, like she said, could take 1, 2, 5, 10 years. Just depends.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. The next question I'm going to ask, I believe Miss Lila Holly, you had some insight for us with this next question. Ma'am, what did you wish you would have done before you decided to write a book?
Hello, everybody. My name is Lila Holly, and I'm the founder of Camouflage Sisters, which is a platform for women veterans to share their stories. And so I write anthologies. And so I felt like I did a lot of research, and I really surrounded myself with people who had already done it. So I asked a lot of good questions. And then I was connected to my publisher, who really taught me a lot in the process. And because my books are anthologies, it's a little different writing process. I have to go through the process of putting out a call for co-authors and then interviewing and make sure the women are at a good healing space to share their stories. And then we go into the writing process, and then the actual publishing process. So for me, I went into it as a business. That's the one advice that I give all authors: go into writing a book as if it is starting a business, because in essence, you really are. I mean, you put in all your blood, sweat, and tears into writing this book. You invest in writing this book. You want to get something out of it. So you have to go into it like it's a business. And so I feel like I asked the right questions. I did the proper planning, and what really helped me was being connected to the right people who had known what to do, who were positioned to help me execute. And so I felt really prepared when I went into publishing my first Camouflage Sisters book.
Excellent. Okay. Awesome. Now, my next question, I believe Dr. K, Lila, and Lisa, you all had some insight on this, because I absolutely didn't have a clue about this. So I thank you for your answers in advance. Now, what type of publishing process did you use? And Dr. K, if you don't mind starting it off, we haven't heard from you yet, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. So I used hybrid type of publishing. Just to start with, there are 3 types. There's traditional, the big 5 publishing companies, as we call them. Then it's hybrid publishing, and then self-publishing. In my case, I presented my book to about 3 publishing companies, hybrid ones, and I was fortunate to be selected by one of them. And then from there on, there is with hybrid publishing, it's like a relationship. Okay, you invest some of it, about half of it. It depends on the contract, and then the other person or the company itself invest their time and funds as well. The nice thing about hybrid publishing is that you can retain the rights or the royalties of your work and make a lot of decisions anywhere from picking up the cover of your book and all the way to picking up where and how is your book going to be marketed and shared with the world.
Excellent. Okay, Lila, I believe you had some insight on this as well, ma'am.
Yes. So I actually self-published my very first book, which was The Journey of My Transition. It's called Battle Buddy. And so I self-published that by myself. And then when I went into creating Camouflage Sisters, I used a hybrid publishing company. And what a hybrid publishing company is like Dr. K said, is a company that kind of walks you through. It's a mix between traditional and self-publishing. And so you have for me, my concern was having a lot of say-so in the creative process. And so I didn't want anybody to change my vision. I didn't want them to change our words, the way we told our stories, because we're telling our stories, our truths by using our words. And then, I'm a very spiritual woman. God gave me everything. He gave me the design of my covers. I didn't want anybody to mess with that. I wanted them to create them exactly how I told them to create them. And they, in essence, like Dr. K said, it is a relationship. So we built that relationship. I trusted them with my vision, and they listened to me, and they executed everything that I gave them to execute. They didn't question me. They didn't push back. They were open to learning our language as military women. And I'm very, very fortunate that, every single one of my 9 books that we created is exactly what I wanted to create. So.
Awesome. All right. And Lisa, I believe you had some input on that question as well.
Yes, ma'am. I agree with both previous speakers. They're right on. And I too used a hybrid opportunity to publish my books. And I think it's important for you to be comfortable with what you're doing, right, and how you do it, and not to lose sight of your vision. And I think Lila's exactly spot on. I came to my publisher with a vision from cover to cover, right? Colloquialisms, the way I talk, I use Spanglish. And that was in my book, and I didn't want to change that, right? And it was important to me. And a traditional publisher that I talked to was a little. They didn't want to work with me they weren't as accommodating. So as Lila says, the hybrid publishing, you can drive the train, you can drive it, and then you can walk away if they don't end up working with you the way you see your vision coming to fruition. You take their technical expertise, but ultimately you make decisions. And so like my first book, the cover, I designed that on a piece of paper and said, this is what I want, right? And my publisher told me, oh, Lisa, I don't like that. It's too Brady Bunch. And I said, well, I'm trying to show the diversity of the survivors of MST, and it's important to me to show this and every branch and that kind of stuff. So when I explained to him why, he rolled and said, yeah, you're right, you can do that. That's a great explanation. The second book I wrote was Latina Warrior, and this is more a poetry, prose, and art book. What's interesting to note, Sharon, and all the attendees listening in today, is when I was writing the first book, I started writing the second book because I was writing poetry to kind of deal with my trauma, and that's how I started writing the second book. But what's interesting is my publisher said he's never published a poetry book, and he was not going to do that ever. And so he published my second book. So sometimes no means yes. You just stick with it, right?
All right. And you know what, ladies, I apologize. A question just came to me. I don't know who would like to answer this question, but how do you find a publisher? And I'll take 1 to 2 speakers if you could even. I forgot to even ask you that as we did our practices and our recon and rock drills and Army Talk. How in the world do you even find someone to publish?
I think Lila put the answers, some good answers in the chat already.
Mhm.
I interviewed 3 different publishers. One
Okay.
was traditional, 2 were hybrid before I found the right person to work with me. Blue Ear Books, that's who I work with. But I had a Latina in Chicago who wanted to publish my books. But they all came from recommendations, referrals from other authors and other people. So I didn't do any cold calls. I was introduced to CEOs of publishing companies by other people. So use your network, reach out and ask. And authors typically other authors will help you. They want you to succeed. The
Excellent.
writing community is a great supportive community.
Okay, now I am not able to multitask at the moment, so I can't read the chat. Lila, could you share what you were saying about how to even find a publisher? Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, I was just saying, like Lisa already said, do your homework. Please, please, please do your research, and have a vision going into it, the type of experience you want to have in writing your book. There are some really, really good hybrid publishing companies out there. You know, back in the day, traditional was the way to go, and that was the only way to go. And so self-publishing and hybrid publishing got a bad rap, but now there are so many avenues and so many really good people out there helping you publish your book. So do your research, know what type of experience you want to have in this. And then, like Lisa said, ask other authors, ask, and just, the one thing I did say was ask for previous clients of that publisher and talk with them about their experience publishing with that publisher, and then make your decision. And then also, your budget. Have a budget and plan prior to going in, how much you want to spend, and then know that, you know, that's going to be a part of making your decision as well.
Perfect, perfect.
Can I weigh in on that just a little bit? Because I recently had to part ways with mine. So I just want to kind of.
Excellent, Janae. Yeah, we haven't heard from you yet, ma'am. And
Yeah.
go right ahead.
You know, I've written 2 books. My first book, the publisher was amazing. I met her. I could tell that there was an alignment in the passion. She was really passionate about making sure I got my story out there. Worked very well with me. There were times where, you know, I had to, and I'll kind of go back to the budget conversation. I had to budget for additional pieces. So when you select a publisher, a hybrid publisher, know that you're not all in necessarily with a cost, or at least ask that in advance, because you may still have to pay for like photography and some of the other things that you're gonna have to do for your book cover. So know that the cost may not apply to the entirety of publishing that book, but I will also say, and foot stomp what everyone else has said, which is talk to former clients, because they won't necessarily put that information out publicly if they had a nightmare. And I recently, unfortunately, had to part ways like a month before my book is supposed to be published with my hybrid publisher. And after I publicized that I parted ways with him, I started getting flooded with emails of people who had adverse experiences as well. And now I wish I had done my research in advance. So yes, please do your research. It's a large investment, but more so it's a soul investment. Like you're putting your life into this, and the last thing you want is to be right up there against that end date, and then all of a sudden you have to extend that or pull it back because you ended up aligning with the wrong person.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. All your answers, I'm sure you saved a lot of grief, a lot of time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Now, I have a couple of more questions that I'm going to ask. Battle Buddy Dolores said we have questions in the chat. So when I finish, we will absolutely go through the chat. And thank you, attendees and participants for putting your questions in the chat, because we all want to learn. Thank you so much. Now, my next question, I'm going to, I believe Donna and Janae had some input on that. How much say-so did you have in designing your book cover art? Donna, I'll let you go first, ma'am.
So I'm gonna lean on the sentiment of what Janae just said and the other ladies were saying is, and it leans into the book cover. I had full control over my book cover, and I self-published, and I've done it twice. And I think somebody just put a comment about my background. Yeah, I do some self-publishing. I do help people one-on-one. It's a very small part of my business, but I do that huge amount intentionality for situations like Janae just talked about. So book cover, full control over that. When you guys are walking into these things, if you have a concept and idea, my suggestion is have 3, because you can battle test that with the technology that you have today. You can have your concepts made very easily, and you can put it out to your audience. If you've been working on building your audience on what's coming, like Janae has an audience. And so if she's going to publish, she could take her books and say, hey, here's a teaser, what's coming, what do you guys think, kind of thing. So kind of keep that in mind. But in self-publishing, you have first full control over everything. It's all your decisions.
Perfect. All right. And Janae, would you like to speak to that, ma'am? How much say-so did you have in designing your book cover art?
For both of my books, I had full control in designing them. The first book, I wanted to make it very, it was a very personal story. So I wanted to make sure that it showed kind of that story up front of what you were getting. It was kind of my younger self looking up to my new self because it's a mini memoir. And then the second book, it's the DD-214 Warrior, the Advocate's Battle Plan. That one has been very well received. But both of them I designed. I had some assistance from my self-publishers on kind of the final product, but both of them I had full. And I will add, for my first one, I brought back some like old journal entries and stuff like that and put them in the book. So any way that you can personalize it and really let the reader feel like they're fully connecting with you, I think that's a really good thing to do. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, awesome. All right, for my next question, I believe Dr. K, Lila, and Janae had some input for this, and I'm going to go ahead and ask it. How did you market your book? And can you share any advice regarding the marketing process? And I'll let Dr. K go first with her response.
Actually, that is one of the hardest things or hardest of the 3 processes in the book writing, publishing, and marketing. It starts the marketing, as we start publishing, we get excited. I remember how my last couple of months before, my book hit the shelves, I was very excited, almost like it was like a crescendo. Just, okay, we're getting to the finish line, we're getting there, and everything is going very well. But then as I published a book, I realized very, very fast that my publisher and a lot of the publishers, they start pulling back. Because really what you need to do, understand is they need, more fuel to the fire to also market your book. So, yes, as I saw some of the questions, there is a lot of investment in the book. Like, in my book, Push Them Breathe, it was a tremendous amount of both material and professional and intellectual property invested in it. So after you publish, don't think for a minute that you are going to just, or your publisher is going to put it in Amazon, is going to put it, on Barnes and Nobles, and it's going to sell like hotcakes, because it's not. You have to self-market or hire an agent. I personally self-market my book, and I still do. I pitch on a weekly basis, whether that is to, other marketing companies, to book clubs, to any Barnes and Nobles for author signing events, and so forth. I know I'm pushing over my time, but marketing in itself is something that it's not given the priority that it should. Especially, it's like a long marathon. It never ends. Unlike the publishing, that it just comes a crescendo and then here you are, it's published.
Gotcha. Awesome. All right, Miss Lila, would you care to provide some input on that, ma'am?
Yes, absolutely. So, like I mentioned, my books are anthologies. And so the reason why I love anthologies is because you are working with a team already coming out the gate. And so every single one of my books, I have every single author is pushing and using their platforms to push and promote the book. And so we're getting, it's not just me out there trying to do it by myself. It's all of us working together to get it done. Not only that, I give them strategies on how to do it, how to use your social media. I give them scripts on how to do it. how to use your email and your text messaging. Like Dr. K said, it's tough because once family and friends buy the book, then what? What do you do from there? And so I give them ideas of how to continue that marketing process. Look for events, create events of how you can sell your book. Tap into book clubs. If you're a part of an organization and they have a monthly book that they're reading, recommend your book. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, writing a book is a business. You have to go into it like that. And so if you want to, not only recoup your investment, but make above and beyond, you have to have a plan. Like you have to if becoming a public speaker is what you want to do, use your book. You got a calling card at the end of your speech. You can sell your book. And so look for bulk ways to sell your book. If they can't pay you, tell them to purchase books in advance and give them a discount if they purchase bulk books, but there's multiple ways of how to market your book. It's just an ongoing process. Get your book out there. I tell people all the time, if I go to your social media and I don't see any talk about this book you wrote, then you're doing something wrong. It's ongoing. It's ongoing. People need to know what you've done in order to support you. And most people will support you if you just let them know, hey, I wrote a book, support me. 20 bucks is nothing to people. So let people know that you wrote the book and it's ongoing. So hope that helps.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Janae, ma'am, if you wanted to add a response about marketing your book and then advice as well.
Yes, I'm going to hit it hard. I'm going to try to do the best I can to get as much in here as I can. Marketing is the most important thing. You spend all of this time and money investing in the book. You need to make sure that the marketing is at the forefront of what you're doing and don't make it an afterthought. And I think that's what a lot of people do is they go through the entire process of writing their book. And then when they release the book and it doesn't launch in the way they expected it, they then start trying to market. And you should be doing this from the day that you decide to write a book. You should be feeding your audience with information. I've got exciting news for you. I can't wait to tell you about it. Then when you get that book cover, those prototypes, bring them along on the journey of writing the book with you so that when you get to the end and you're ready to release the book, they're all so invested that they're like ready to push that button. Two more things that I'll add. So first off, just for perspective, my book was a #1 bestseller on the very first day that I launched it. It stayed on the bestseller list for 12 weeks. And that was a result of us doing that marketing. The next thing is that final week, right? Or actually the day of the release, I actually set aside the entire day and I sat on podcasts and live the entire day on the day that I launched my book. So I was on everybody's podcast that I could get on, and I was on my live, bringing people through and letting them know like, hey, we just hit number 10, we just hit number 9. And so they were really invested and part of that story with me. And then another thing is PR packages. Get your book out to people before your release date. Try to get them all copies. Big influencers or people that you feel like have a pretty big audience, somehow make them part of your story, and then get those PR packages out there and ask them all also on the same day that you release your book to do a little shout out for you, whether it's in their story or whatever. You're expanding your audience. So it's something methodical. Just as much effort as you're putting into writing that book, you need to put into marketing that book because you want to get it into as many hands as possible. And my publishing for my first one was my hybrid publisher was incredible at coaching me through that. And so I give her mad props on that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, my next question, I believe, Lila, you had some input on this. Has AI assisted you in any way with writing your book?
So I recently got my master's degree in creative writing with an emphasis in publishing. And this has been like the topic for the industry, right? AI, because it's not going anywhere. And so for me, because I write nonfiction books, so the short answer is no. I don't use AI to write my books. However, for marketing and other things, I definitely use AI. I'm not against using AI to write a book, but for nonfiction, if it's your story you're telling, you got to write from the heart. You gotta connect with your reader, and the only way you can do that is write your story from your heart with your words. Okay. But you can definitely use AI to help you with marketing, to help you tighten up your blurb that goes on the back of your book, tighten up your short bio, to create, blogs about your book, to create that,
Press release.
yeah, press release, that's
Okay.
it. And then also with social media posts. AI is great for all of those things to help you along. But if you're writing fiction, you think of AI as your writing companion or your writing partner to run ideas by, to help you flesh out, different things in your book if you're writing fiction, and then to help you if you get writer's block. It's good for those things as well. So the bottom line is AI is not going anywhere. Don't be afraid of it. I don't recommend writing a whole book with it, but
Right.
definitely figure out ways of how it can help you in the writing process.
Oh, excellent. That's pretty good. Thank you, ma'am. Now,
Sharon, can I add one thing on that?
go right
Some
ahead.
publishers do not use AI at all and will not
Mhm.
allow you, they won't work with you if you use AI. And my
Mhm.
publisher's that way, and I don't use AI at all. But I agree with Lila. I think some ways for the marketing, that would probably be, it's smart to do that, but since I write nonfiction just like she does, it comes from, like she said, the heart, the soul, the joy, the pain, right? And so you have to really interview your publisher to see when you select one, how they feel about AI, because they may not want you touching that at all, just like
Right.
mine does. So,
Okay, excellent. All right. Now, the next question, Dr. K, I believe you had some excellent input on this. What's the difference between an editor and a book coach?
Well, the book coach is also, some of them are called ghostwriters. The book coach does just as the name implies, it coaches you to the process, but it also, you can hire that person or writer to help you with the writing process. A lot of us out there have full-time jobs, like I have two enterprises I run. I have a full-time practice. I'm a full-time physician and CEO. I have, two young sons and a whole family. So it is quite a bit on my plate. Having a book coach is very, very helpful because not only that they help you with the writing process, but also they have a team of people that can go through the editing. And it's like, again, it's like a relationship. You work with them, it's almost like a friendship that develops, specifically if the book coach is very much vested into the success of your project or book, as mine was. The editor just does that. It's just a piece of your book. So after the manuscript is ready, then the editors will have to go, and it's not going to be just one editor. It's going to be 2-3 editorial processes that have to go and take your book and go with a fine comb through to make sure that that is both in text and grammar, but also how it flows. That is in addition to what your publisher are going to do. They have their own set of publishers, and they do differ when it comes to price tags. So if your book is written with the help of a coach, in some cases they have such a good team process that your book is edit ready for the publisher. So the publisher will cut you a financial break on that because they don't have to work that extra hard. One quick caveat here I want to put, don't be afraid to use a book coach. If you desire, pick them wisely, but also remember that your book is it's your baby. Just because somebody writes it, just like having a scribe, you have the idea. You have what it takes. You have your message. So don't be afraid that somebody's going to call you a fraud, because you're not. Without you, without that idea, that book will never, ever be born.
Awesome. All right. So the last question I'm going to ask, then we're going to take questions from today's attendees after this. But Dr. K, you're going to answer this. And I don't want to say ladies, because I believe there's some gentlemen here as well. Dr. K has a raffle prize. So I'm going to ask her this last question. Now, if anyone can put the answer to the question that I'm going to be asking you all in the chat, you will be a winner of her audiobook. So to be the winner of the audiobook, if you can put in the chat the day that Women Veterans Day observed here in the state of Texas, you'll be the winner of the raffle prize. Again, what day is Women Veterans Day observed here in the state of Texas? The first one to answer correctly will be the winner of the raffle prize. Now, the last question I'm going to ask, and Dr. K, you're going to be answering this question. If your book is available in the following formats, such as an ebook, audiobook, and traditional book, what was that process like? And I believe, Dr. K, you were able to provide some insight on that.
I was blessed to be able to offer my readers my book in all the three formats, hardcover, the audiobook, and the ebook. Each process, it's in itself, it's just going through the publishing process again, because I personally had to make all the choices and pretty much give all the green lights for everything that had to do with the hard book cover, but also for the audiobook and for the ebook. When it comes to audiobook in particular, as you all noticed, I do have an accent. So because my book is a memoir, is a nonfiction story about my life here in the United States and how I became a physician, it was very, very important for me to the voice of that narrator to be as close to mine, so has a slight accent, but also something that when people listen to my book would envision the author. So I did interview 3 sets of 5 narrators. I did have them read my pieces of the book, excerpts of the book. I had them go through the whole vetting process. And not only that, I interviewed them separately, face-to-face, afterwards, together with my publisher. So it is a very, very engaged process, but I'm very, very happy that I've done all 3 of them. I think that especially, and you have to consider that a lot of the ebooks and the audiobooks are the fastest growing book type that's out there in the world, just because, where we are in the 21st century. So I definitely would say entertain the idea to expose your book in more than just hardcover, because it does pay dividends, and, it's more ways to show it to the world.
Okay, awesome. Yep. And
Ron, if I could jump in on that one too.
Go right ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, my very first Camouflage Sisters book I have in all 3 platforms: audio, hard paper copy, and ebook. But the other books are just paper copy and ebook. And I would say with audio books, it is the fastest growing format there, because I love Audible and I listen to ebooks almost every day. But the marketing aspect of it is totally different from a regular book, right? So take that into account. There is an additional investment in getting your audiobook done. There's some, very affordable ways to do it, but it can be very, very costly when it comes to finding a talent and then getting the editing done. But that is the fastest growing platform, and it is worth it, because a lot of people do love ebooks. And but just know that when you have one, marketing it is going to be way different from your regular ebook or your hard copy book.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, we're going to get ready to go through the chat and take some questions from the chat. But before we do, if we have any fellow veteran authors, could you raise your hand and we could acknowledge you really quick? If there's we have any other of our sister or brother veteran authors in attendance, I'm going to let you. Okay. All right. So. Oh, okay. Okay. First, I didn't think we had anybody. Miss Elizabeth, if you wanted to go ahead and just speak really quickly to the crowd, tell us about your book and what branch. Hopefully you're an Army vet. I'm not going to say that's the best branch, but introduce yourself real quick. Oh, poor. Oh, of course. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So thank you for inviting me, Sharon. I am an Army veteran, a proud Army veteran, but only proud, like only acknowledging myself as a veteran in the last probably, I don't know, 10 years. But I have just released my book, Broken into Stronger Places, From Resilience to Resourcefulness. And it is about, it's my memoir, but in addition to that, I spent 30 years in the field of domestic violence and sexual assault. And so it's about my time in that field. I started out in 1993 working in local community crisis centers and working with women veterans and doing that work, or women, not women veterans. I'm sure there were women veterans, but I wasn't asking the question back then because I didn't think of it. And so then in 2016, I went to work at the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs as the Oregon Women Veterans Coordinator. And then I ended up as the deputy director at the Center for Women Veterans in DC. So it's about, I left that job. I walked out one day and never went back. And so the book covers from the time I joined the Army until the time a year after I walked out of VA. I went on a healing road trip, solo journey, and in a van that I purchased. So the book covers everything in between. And it taught, basically the title, Broken into Stronger Places, is about re-traumatization. I'm a social worker, so it's my experience with how trauma revisits us, and we're not aware maybe of that and how we respond, and helping women understand, or readers understand what that looks like, and how to respond, different treatment modalities, etc.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. All right. So we're going to now try to get to some of the questions in the chat. And I'm going to see who is the winner of the audio book. I think my battle buddy might have let me know. All right.
It was Miss Eastbrooks, Miss Elizabeth Eastbrooks.
Oh, is she the winner?
Yes, ma'am.
Chicken dinner.
Yay!
All right.
Yay!
All right. Okay.
I know a lot more about veterans than I probably should, but
All right. And thank you for everybody. in
thank you.
attendance. Oh no, blizzard covered Nebraska. All right. So we got a lot of greetings.
There is a question.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. There's
Mhm.
a question. What is the average investment for self-publishing versus hybrid? What were the lessons learned that made you switch from self to hybrid? And do we need to get a small business loan for help? So it's a three-parter. And that was a recurring question, was the average investment.
Okay. So I don't know if anyone wanted to
I think
take that.
I've done it twice, so I can
can-
probably.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I'll say what I've done and
Go
then if you
ahead.
want to follow. Okay. So I guess what I'll say is the first thing is for the investment, and we've all kind of talked about this in the past. Don't expect to get a return on your investment necessarily in the book sales themselves. The book is a tangible launching pad for you to be able to take your business in other directions. So if you're wanting to do coaching or speaking, something along that lines, then that's where you're probably going to get the return on your investment. So just out the gate, don't expect that. From what I've seen, the investment, if you're doing like a hybrid or you're having somebody coach you through the entire process, it's somewhere between $8,000 to $10,000. That's kind of what I've seen it be. I wouldn't necessarily recommend getting a loan because again, you're probably not going to get that return on investment right away. So that's from my experience.
I agree with Jen.
I would like to add
Should-
to that, Janae. Also, it does, they range. So you said 8 to 10,000 for a hybrid, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. It can go as high as 80,000. So it really depends, because what happened is in the contract, it gives you different packages. And you would, and I'm not saying I paid 80,000. What I'm saying is that there's a wide variety there of not only publishing companies, but also packages. Whether you want to, what would you like the exposure to be? What do they want to invest in, the NetGalley versus Audible, or versus also the freebies that they give, and also if they help you afterwards for a short period of time or for a longer period of time with the marketing process.
Awesome. And Donna, I know you had something to say. Go ahead,
go-
ma'am.
Problem,
Thank you,
no
ma'am.
problem. So, this, because we only have a limited amount of time, when people are saying, what do we do? And you hear us say, do your research. I know people are asking the question, well, what research do I do? And what both ladies said are correct, that self-publishing is not cheaper than hybrid. As a matter of fact, hybrid can actually cost you more. Things that have to be taken consideration. And I see this in the sense that you have to look at all the little factors, and this, like the last couple minutes that we have there is definitely not enough time to break it down. But it can be like things like author copies, like, and the contract that you're in and how long that contract's for. And there's so many little weedy details that the best thing to do is talk to people like Janae or Lisa or Dr. K that have done hybrid, find out who they use, find out what they paid, and really dig deep in some of these questions, because that is where people get in trouble. They don't understand the contract. I would definitely not be above grabbing the contract and bringing it to a contract lawyer and having it explained in legal speak to understand it, because there are some really good ones. And if people here have had great experiences, that's exactly where I'd be running to find out who it was and get all the details. Because writers are open, like writers are writers because they love to write. They don't necessarily like the business side. They want everybody else to succeed too. So those, if they've done hybrid, I would be talking and I'd be asking those questions. When it gets up to things like Dr. K was saying, 80,000, now you're getting into ghostwriting, developmental editing, and things like that. You're getting into very high-end stuff. And they're not wrong. They're not necessarily wrong if you know what you're doing with your book. Janae uses her book to do motivational speaking and whatnot. And she uses that as her platform, which gives her a better chance at getting a return on investment. And she was very correct to say, if you are just writing and just want to put the book out there, there's a number one rule, which is like, you better love to write, because you're probably not going to get your investment just on the writing. So there's like all these little things that you guys really need to, the weed part. And that's where, if you do get a book coach, like I am a book coach, and you see my business back there, we go through all that stuff. And they're right. Like we have teams, like I have editors and different people like that. And we go through all those little weedy details. So my recommendation is, like, if you decide what you want to do, if you're writing a nonfiction and you just want to put it out there and that's that, and you don't want to go speak and do all that stuff, you have to understand what the return is going to be on that. You probably won't make that return. The publishing world right now, traditional publishing, the reason why they get to be so fussy is because we gave them a free playground. Not bad. It just is what it is. So as people are writing, like people know, like Colleen Hoover. Colleen Hoover was actually a self-published person until she started getting an audience and started getting built up. And then traditional publishing is like, oh, hey, this person is going to give us a return on investment. So you have to understand they get to watch this stuff. So the more you're marketing and doing better, I have seen people get picked up. There are also small publishers. Not everybody it's not all Penguin and all those big ones. There are little small publishers, and I've seen people come into really good situations in traditional publishing with small publishers. So a lot of it, like I said, with these ladies, if they've been there and done that, I would be like knocking on their door going, okay, I'm thinking hybrid. Who did you talk to? What did you pay? Et cetera, et cetera. And what questions did you ask? And what did you not ask that you should have asked? Because when people are doing copy line editing, is different than whether you're doing developmental editing. And then you have proofreaders and you have beta readers, and beta readers are extremely important, you know, on being able to ask those questions. And should you pay for the beta reader or whatnot? We could go on forever.
Yeah, awesome.
But the whole point is, like, when we say do research, knock down those doors that you see people say, I had a good experience, this went well, ask them those questions.
Thank you so much. Awesome. All right, Lisa, I'm going to high five you. I see your hand up, ma'am. You wanted to, you had some
Thank you.
input?
Yeah, I just want to say, if you want to publish a book, you want to write a book and publish it, there's a way to do it. Everything's negotiable. Okay, you can work with I wrote my own contract with my publisher because I was very adamant about certain things, right? So, and if you have let's say you have no backing at all, no funding, and you still want to write a book. If you can pitch your story to a publisher and they believe in your story, then they'll work a deal with you, but they're going to recoup some of that money from your book sales, right? So you're not going to own your book 100%, but you're still going to get your book out there. So you can range all kinds of percentages. You can negotiate anything and everything. So don't be hoodwinked into getting ripped off. You know what I'm saying? So Donna is exactly right. Some of the advice she's given. We could do a whole nother session on the business side of books, right? And so don't be afraid to ask those important questions. I negotiated everything about my book, right? And I was adamant about it, and you can too. But if you don't have the funds, the capital to pay upfront or in installments, then you can work a deal, you know. And I would say about 10,000 is the average for hybrid publishers just to publish. That's not
Thank
even the
you.
market. That's just to publish.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that figure. Now, Dr. Cassine, you've come off mic. Did you have anything else to add?
I did, if I didn't get a chance to chime in there, because I did both self and hybrid.
Mhm.
And I did self-publishing to just get my book out there. And I used that book to speak at local colleges. And so it accomplished what I wanted it to do. But then when I created Camouflage Sisters, I worked with a hybrid publisher because I had a different vision for that book and that platform that I wanted to build around the book. And so when I started, I just had an idea for one book. And here we are getting ready to release our 10th book in our 10th year with over 150 authors that we've published and made Amazon bestsellers. So the vision has come to fruition and has grown even beyond my wildest dreams. But like Lisa said, you can self-publish and you can get your book out there. But if you go with a hybrid, it is going to be an investment. So just have a vision of what you want your book to accomplish. Like Janae said, she uses it for, I do too, use my book for speaking and bulk sales. I put it in bookstores. Just have a plan and work with your publishing team to give you some ideas and help you. I've even created a script and a treatment for a TV series. So, you know, I mean, you can dream as big as you want with your book, but you have to have a plan going into it.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. All right.
I will have to drop off very soon, but
Yep,
I
thank
wanted to say in the end, just always remember that you are truly not selling your book. You're selling your message, you're selling your vision. You're really selling something that you're putting out in the world, something that you believe in. So as I always tell my sons, you know, when they say, well, but mom, what about this? What about the revenue? What about return of investment and so forth? And I said, well, if you love what you do and you believe in what you do, the return will come. Maybe not come the fastest way that you want to, but it will come because people will see when you speak from the heart, people will see your message, and people will get drawn to it. Just going out there and trying to sell the book, as at some point in the very beginning, I believed in, it won't get you far because it comes through as all this person wants is to sell. Well, you don't want just to sell. You want to send out your message that you believe in. And that's something a lot grander, and it's going to be lasting a longer time than just a sale. And thank you so much for the opportunity that you gave me, Sharon. And thank you for such an awesome audience. Appreciate you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Dr. K is a medical doctor. She just fit us in your schedule. So thank you, ma'am. I know you got to drop off. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. So before we conclude today, I don't believe I see any more questions. I will, I'm going to save the chat. And I will go through the chat and send the links and the handouts as much as I can. So before we conclude today's webinar, did anyone have any questions? Any questions for the subject matter experts? Thank you all for coming. Any more questions? You have these ladies now. You have a good support system, a good network. I'm going to pick on somebody to ask a question. I feel like Carmela, you're looking very intently. You and Johanna, did y'all have any? Johanna, When y'all have any questions? Because y'all been look like y'all been taking notes, nodding your head. So if you have any questions, this is your time.
I am in the process of book writing and I don't know what questions to ask, kind of like you ladies have said, what research do I do? But the way I want to go, I think, is self-publishing. So with self-publishing, would you say that's easier than working hybrid because you have so much control, or it's challenging regardless of your route?
If I were to answer that question, I would say
go ahead,
that the
Janae.
hybrid, okay. I would
No.
say, you know, if you're writing your first book, you're already putting a lot of effort into learning how to write the book. And so for me, it's good to hire a coach and to have somebody coach you through that, because they know the process of the self-publishing. So you're not having to take your energy and time away to work on that. So it's okay to pay people to help you and to coach you through the process. You know, as much as possible with any business that you do, make sure that you're hiring help and not trying to do it all yourself, or else you're going to kind of deflect and move away from your original intent. That would be my advice. But I'll let the other ladies chime in.
Okay, Donna, I know you had something to say. Then we're going to take a question from Kat. Then I think we'll conclude out of respect for everybody's time. Go ahead, Donna.
Either way, it's taking a fire hose to the face straight up, because you're learning so much. Like Janae said, you're learning to write, you're learning to find your voice. And I think all of us can tell you that. I know we say find your voice, but it's not always that easy, you know, because you have to have consistency and lots of stuff. But hybrid, again, it's all about that, who you connect with and how they are functioning. There are some good ones. These ladies have found good ones. I have seen disasters too. And so it's all about that connection. And honestly, we could go on, but if you ever wanted to have that discussion, I put my email in there. I will freely sit down and talk with you about it, and we can get into the weeds. It's not a problem, because it would take a little too long for this environment to go through it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, Kat, you want to answer? You had a question?
Yes. First, thank you everybody so much for all the authors and the great information. This has been really inspiring. So my question is, for everyone who's done the nonfiction route and who has published personal stories, personal aspects, what helped you get over the hurdles of sharing those hard to tell stories? Because I have been trying to write my story for more than 10 years. And it gets to the rough edges and the rough parts where I really just have to step away for long periods of time. But I really, really want to finish this book. So what are some pointers that you can give? Thank you so much.
Well, I can attest to that one, Kat. It's good to see you too. Since my first book was about MST and PTSD, that kind of thing, and had so many stories, and I interviewed so many people. So not only was I telling my story of trauma, but I was telling other people's story. I was writing their stories, and just the interview process triggered my trauma. So I would say have a great support network. And I did through other vets, through the VA, through therapy. I was writing my book and going through EMDR therapy at the same time. If I did not do that, I'm not sure I would have made it. I needed help. And I was finally strong enough to ask for help, right? So I think having a good support network of psychologists, friends, veterans, and then pacing yourself. I would write one sentence and walk away, be so enraged at what I was writing. And I would remember what happened. I couldn't believe what I experienced, that I had buried it for so many years, right? So you're uncovering a lot. Deep reflection is painful, right? But I can tell you, Kat, when you're done on the other side, you're going to be so empowered, and your story is going to help so many other people. I had no idea that being vulnerable, being that authentic, you strip it all down, man, was going to be that empowering and healing for me. So I do a lot of writing to heal workshops with the VA. I do art therapy workshops. I do, you know, because for me, writing and writing poetry has saved my life. So.
Thank you. What a beautiful answer, Lisa. That is phenomenal. And Kat, I graduate from UTSA, so I'm not sure if we say birds up, whatever we say, but yeah, you're my UTSA sister. Yeah, okay. I'm a little old. I'm gonna try that. All right.
chime in too, real quick?
Yeah, go right ahead. Then we're going to be concluding.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with Lisa. Definitely get your counseling. And with our anthologies is good because we have our built-in that, support system. As we're writing, we have a book on, we touch on all the tough stories as well throughout our books. But also, I always tell my co-authors is somebody's waiting for your story to heal. And so we use writing as a healing tool, not only for the writer, but for the person reading it. So think about you when you needed to hear your story, right? So write for that person that's waiting to hear your story to be able to move forward in their own healing process, Kat.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that phenomenal input. Looks like we have one gentleman here today. I don't know, Barry, if you wanted to say anything, do you had any input?
Thank you very much for your opportunity to listen in on your great insights. I'm actually a nonfiction writer working on my first novel about women's experiences, and you guys have been a great help in being able to pick your brains with it when it comes to the writing process.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for capturing our stories because our voices matter. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So thank you. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think you're the only gentleman here. This is going to conclude today's webinar. I thank you so very much for your time and your attention. I'm going to go through the chat. I will be sending out links, the items that I can extract from the chat. I will be sending out a copy of Dr. K's audiobook to the winner. I'll probably get that information out to you in approximately an hour. Thank you for participating. Please stay in touch with Texas Veterans Commission Women Veterans Program. We have a lot of wonderful events coming up in the month of April. And I don't know if any of my colleagues are on before I log off, but if not, thank you for your time and attention. This concludes today's event. Thank you so very much.